Hi, this is Soren Barr from Hennepin Restomods again. Today we're going to be looking at a Dodge route van that we're working on. This truck is going to get swapped onto a modern Chevy Silverado 1-ton chassis, but started life with a 1-ton chassis from Dodge with a cab and chassis package, so with no van body as you would normally see on the Dodge route vans. And I say normally, but that's a little bit of a stretch since there were very few of these made in the late 40s and just into the early 50s. There's some really interesting features on this van, so we're going to go through a few of those here. The first thing I'll show you here is the body. You'll see that this is empty. So we've got this all cleared out right now, ready to move on to the modern chassis. But we're going to focus today on looking at the original chassis, which has some really interesting features. So this is the original chassis for the Dodge route van. So this one is even unusual for the Dodge route vans because it is a 1-ton long wheelbase cab chassis package. So while it only has single wheels on the back, as we swing around to take a look there, you'll see that this is actually a dually setup and has a wider rear end than the front end, and is set up for dualies. They just at some point in the past removed them. At least one set of wheels is actually physically broken. So, but from this perspective, one of the things you'll see is this radiator is interestingly offset. It is completely off to the passenger side. You can see the steering wheel onto the on the driver's side or onto the right here as we view it, and the radiator is completely on the left. What would have been here in front of the steering wheel is actually the gas tank. So there would have been a relatively tall upright gas tank that sat next to the engine. That's been removed on this chassis, and they actually had a more conventional tank in the back when we got it. The engine is relatively conventional for the time. You can see the oil bath air cleaner. It's a standard flathead inline 6. This is the same engine that you would find in the Power Wagons from the late 40s. A lot of the technology and a lot of the design from this came straight from the military trucks that Dodge and Chrysler were building during World War II. And we'll see that in the rear end, as it's a very unique rear end here. The truck has hydraulic brakes, but has basically a friction-style parking brake right behind the transmission there. And what you'll see here basically is the power brake system. So we've got a vacuum chamber here, and a component of the vacuum system here as well, just under where the driver would sit. With the exception of being kind of off center, you can see the rest of this is relatively typical for the late 1940s. The chassis is very low for vans, and you can see they've actually put some cross members here to help support something within the body. I guess it was some piece of equipment that was originally mounted there. But compared to most van bodies that you would see from this era, the chassis is very, very low. And it's got this very tall humps over the rear wheels. So part of the reason for that, both for how low they could get the chassis and how high those humps are, is related to this interesting suspension. So what you'll see here is that this looks like modern independent suspension. The pumpkin is firm mounted into the frame, and we have half shafts running out to each hub. What's a little bit different here is that this is still mounted on leaf springs, and in fact the wheels are not independent from each other. As you can see here, there is a beam axle that's connecting both sides. So you can see it's actually mounted directly to the leaf spring here. This is coming out of the military design. I believe this was set up basically so that in the military usage, the pumpkin was up nice and high, nice and protected, and you didn't have that hanging down where it might hit a rock or in some other way get damaged. But it ends up giving a very unique rear end to here, where even on modern trucks, it's uncommon to see independent rear suspension. But in this 1948 chassis, that's almost what we have. So I hope this was interesting to you. The Dodge route van is a very unique truck, and this chassis here actually is a complete running chassis, but because this truck is going to become a food truck, they need something modern. So what we're going to be doing here is taking this modern 2002 1-ton Chevy Silverado chassis and we'll be installing that van body on this so that now this truck can live out yet another life as a food truck. Hopefully a little lighter duty than what it saw when it was originally, or at least what it was originally designed for. Check out our other videos on YouTube, as well as you can find us on both Instagram and on Facebook. We've got lots of other pictures of this project and other projects, and some other interesting projects that we'll be featuring in the near future. So check us out, follow us, like us, and see what we're up to.